Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Peter Martin, the Web Doc, and I am talking to you from cloudy and cold Baltimore, Maryland, as I'm looking out the window at a fog-covered day. So hopefully, wherever you are out in the country, you are enjoying a little bit better weather than we are. And it's a couple minutes early. I always like to get on a couple minutes early and just thank everybody who logged on early. I see a number of people today. This is going to be a very exciting session, especially just coming off of NADA. For any of you that made it out there, I'm sure you were blown away by all of the new vendors. I mean, there were 573 vendors out there. It's like every new idea is coming out there, or just a lot of companies coming up and repackaging old ideas. But it was quite an assortment of companies out there. And as most of you that went to NADA know, the big topic out there today that I saw and heard about was video. Everything is video, video, video. But today we are going to talk about the basics. And the basics really, is just basic blocking and tackling. Just like everything else, we want to make sure that we're doing the basics, because you can have all of those great gizmos and all those new widgets and all those other cool things that they had at NADA, but the bottom line is if your team isn't doing the basics, you're not going to sell any cars. So I always like to start on time. I got about a minute, so I can see a number of people signing on, so I want to welcome everybody. While we do that, I'm going to give you a little bit of background on me, who I am and what I do. My name is Peter Martin, and I am the founder and CEO or president of Cactus Sky Digital. We've been in business for almost 20 years, serving the automotive industry. We started out primarily working with vendors. Matter of fact, if you went to NADA and you received any emails from the vendors or the daily booth, must-see booths or the must-attend sessions at NADA, those were all sent out by us. Most big vendors in the auto space hire us to help them market to the auto industry. Then the other company is Testimonial Builder. That's a company I started a couple years ago that helps people capture video testimonials on their smartphone and then publish them to the web. So I've been in the business, as you can see, for quite some time. I started out back in 1986 with a dealership called Reichert Ford in Columbus, Ohio. And that was when Rhett and Fred Reichert had just taken over the dealership from their father. And they were just getting the ball rolling. I was still in college at the time. And I had a little advertising agency. I started working with them and helped them become one of the largest car dealerships in the nation. And ended up becoming part of their management team and growing. And then eventually went out on my own. And now here I am today, years later. I don't want to talk about how many years. I'm here helping dealers continue to sell more cars. So unlike a lot of people out there and a lot of people that you may have seen at NADA, I'm actually one of the few people out there as a vendor that actually at one time was in the car business. He sold cars, was a car dealer. So I understand what it's like to sit across from a customer. The advantage that I'm bringing to the table is not only have I been in your shoes, but the biggest piece is these tools that I've developed, and I'm going to share with you, these are things that were developed by somebody who understands what we go through. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to literally walk you through how to triple your internet closing ratio. And I'm going to give you my deck. So anybody who sees what I'm showing you today, if you like what you see and you want to take and implement this at your dealership, all you have to do is email me, and I am more than happy to give you a copy of my PowerPoint. It's literally a roadmap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally walk you through how to do it. I'm going to tell you the things you need to watch out for, and the things that you follow this process, in 90 days, you will triple your internet closing ratio. I know that's a very bold statement, but the fact of the matter is you've all spent a lot of money buying leads. Every dealership I've ever worked with has literally thousands of leads. I have a dealership right now I'm working with that had over 60,000 unsold leads in their CRM. They're buying thousands of leads a month. What I'm going to show you is how to utilize marketing automation to improve your follow-up and not miss sales that you typically miss because your salespeople, and don't get me wrong, I'm an ex-car salesman, so I can say this, are lazy. They're always going to take the path of least resistance. If somebody is standing in front of them waving a check that wants to buy a car, they're going to focus on that customer because they got cash in hand. And unfortunately, because of that, leads fall through the cracks. So with that being said, let's dive into the presentation today. I'm going to go fairly quickly because I want to respect your time. I like to try and get this done a few minutes early so I can answer questions, and there's a lot of information I want to cover today. But at the end of the presentation, I am going to be taking questions. I will also give you my contact information. So at the end, if you want, you can call me, you can email me, whatever you'd like to do. I'm more than happy to help you, but I will do the questions at the end of the webinar. So this is how I always like to start this presentation, because I want you to give some thought, because most people know, but some people have to go take a little look. But how many leads do you have in your CRM? Whether it's 10,000, 20,000, 60,000, 100,000, doesn't make a difference. The fact of the matter is the average dealership out there in the United States today has less than a 10% closing ratio. So let's just say your dealership is above average and you've got a 10% closing ratio. That means that 90% of those leads you didn't sell a car to. So we're going to today look at a plan and put together a plan on how to go back to those leads that are dead leads in your CRM and market to them. I want to point something out to you that you may not be a top of mind. In the car business, we have an incredibly high salesman turnover rate. That's just a problem with our business. It hasn't changed since I started selling cars in 1986. It's always been a problem. It's a revolving door. These leads, the majority of these leads that are in your CRM, the salesperson that originally worked that lead no longer is at your dealership. So it is a lost lead. In addition, in your DMS, you have a large percentage of your database that are your sold customers that are orphan owners as well. These are people that you have a business relationship with, whether as a prospect or as a customer. And on average, those people have no point of contact at the dealership. And with the state of the economy and the business that we're in, you don't want to just have one, salesperson that's trying to handle all of those. My recommendation is you take a broad approach. So now what happens is the point of contact with these customers and prospects becomes the dealership, not a particular person, because if that person leaves, you've just lost that relationship. So what we want to focus on is we want to focus on building the relationship between the dealership and the customers and the prospects. And we're going to talk about how to do that. In service, okay, 61% of your customers have either already gone or they're leaving you. We have a huge problem in the auto industry with lost service customers. Why that's important is when we lose a service customer, we're also losing a future sales opportunity. So part of what we want to focus on is not just focusing on generating more sales, but also retaining our service customer base. And we're going to talk about how to do that in a very inexpensive and very efficient manner. So when we start this process, the first thing we want to do is we want to look at how many sales and service customers are in the DMS. One of the challenges that you face, and this is a good point to take down and make a note of, is most DMS providers archive your data every few years. So when you do a search, you need to really contact your DMS provider and have them help you, because you want to also look at your archived records. Those customers from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, going as far back as possible, those are all very valuable customers. And most DMSs are archiving that data, so you don't have ready access to that data. So you want to take the time to go back and pull all of that data, because the older data is some of your most valuable data. So now that you've pulled that data, you are going to build a complete marketing database. And I want to talk about this because this is very important, and this is very different than what you've been told by other people. And at this point, I want to take 1 second, and I'm going to point something out. Everyone on this call today is on this call because you received an email from me. The fact of the matter is, I was able to get through your spam filters. If that isn't proof enough that I know what I'm talking about, then maybe you just need to disconnect from this call. If I'm able to get an email through your filters and deliver an email to you, and now I have you on this call, I think it goes to say that I know what I'm talking about when it comes to email marketing. I've been doing it longer than anyone else in the industry, and I've been delivering emails better than anyone else. I mean, one of the largest CRM providers for years was one of my clients, and I was doing all their conquest email marketing for them. The fact of the matter is, when I'm telling you these things, it goes against the grain of most other people because they don't want you to do it this way, because it probably will end up costing them money, because you're not going to be paying them to do stuff that you really don't need them to do. So what you're going to do is you're going to build a complete marketing database that is going to be comprised of your unsold internet leads, your orphan service customer. Let's talk about an orphan service customer. An orphan service customer, and my definition is somebody who is having their car serviced at your dealership who you did not sell. So these are people that are not even associated with a salesperson. And then all of your customers in the DMS. And we're going to combine them into one large database. And this is why we're going to do this. The leads in your CRM are dirty leads. Let's call them dirty because they're really not opt-in leads. They're not your customers. So if we were to rank them as far as a quality, as far as a database quality, we're going to say that's kind of a poor quality database when it comes to email deliverability. The leads that are in your DMS, your customers, those leads have a relationship with you, and those customers would be considered a good database from email marketing standpoints. When you combine the CRM and the DMS data, you get a blended database of both bad and good, which gives you a much better across-the-board average as far as your email deliverability. That is very important because your email deliverability is the key to success with any email marketing. The other advantage is now you're going to be marketing to 100% of your database of customers and prospects. Your CRM is designed to only target about 10 to 25% of your database. Most companies out there that are doing email marketing for you, and I'm not going to name any of them because you all know who they are, they're targeting your current customers because that's low-hanging fruit, and your current prospects in your CRM. They're not going after all of the old stuff because it's very difficult to market to those people and getting past the spam filters. So what we're going to talk about today and what you're going to learn in this presentation is this: how to build a marketing database, how to clean the database, how to plan your campaigns, and develop a conquest service program, which is one of the key factors and one of the biggest benefits you're going to find today. The first step, you're going to export all of your data, going back a minimum of 5 years. If you can go back further than that, go back as far as you can. This is a numbers game. The more data you have, the more cars you're going to sell. It's really that simple. So when you combine all the data, you are now going to have a very good blended database. You're going to then take that database and you're going to dedupe it and run it through a couple cleaning processes. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you dedupe it, because unfortunately in service you will have 5, 10, 15, 20 records. Every time that customer comes in for service, depending on who your DMS provider is, it's going to create a new record. Sometimes the record will be Peter Martin, sometimes it might be Pete Martin, sometimes it might be P Martin, sometimes it might be Angie Martin, and my wife brings my car in. So you want to take that and you want to have all of that data deduped and consolidated to make sure you have a clean database. Then you're going to want it to run it through a clean, through NCOA, and then you're going to use a service. And what we recommend is a 3-step process, and I'm going to tell you why. Cleaning data is an expensive process. The first process you want to do is you want to do an in-house process where you literally just go through and you just clean it as best you can. You can take out records that are incorrect. You'll find all types of records that have the word spam involved in it, because those are all different types of traps and things like that you want to take out. Then you want to go through a email cleaning process where you use a third-party service. The reason why you want to do the 3-step process is the second 2 stages you're going to pay for, and they charge you based upon the size of the database. So the first one is you go through a cleaning process, and all you have to do is go online, and there's all these different cleaning services. If you want to email me, I'm more than happy to tell you the ones that I use, and you can use them. I'm not going to endorse anybody over a webinar. That's not the way I do my webinars, but I use different companies. I'm more than happy to tell you who I use. But you go through, and this is a particular one right here, the first report, spam trap incubators. These are the things that are very critical that you want to take out. Now look at this. Out of 41,000 records, there was 2,342 of them that were spam trap incubators. For those of you who don't understand that terminology, that means that's a website, an email address that the email service provider has set up as a trap. So when people email to that address, they know that those are spammers and will get you blacklisted. So after this database was cleaned, we lost 20% of the records. So typically you're going to lose anywhere from 10 to, I'm seeing as high as 30% of the data. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The more data we get, the better off it is. After you've gone through this process, you want to go through another process, which is called email verification. This is an expensive process. It costs as much as a penny a record. And what you're going to do is the service will send out an email. What we'll do is a test they call pinging. They will send out an email to that address to make sure that it is a valid email address. It's very important because if it's a hard bounce, those hard bounces will actually cause you problems with your overall deliverability. So it's a three-step process to clean the data. But once you have the data clean, you're going to have a good, clean marketing database. And once you have that marketing database, that's when you set up your ongoing marketing plan. And I recommend that you're going to email these people so they buy, die, fly, or unsubscribe. If you do it properly, you're only going to have an average of about typically less than 1% unsubscribe rate is what we're seeing. So you're not going to see a lot of unsubscribes if you do it properly. But the key to doing it properly is you want to have professional content. You don't want it to look like you took a newspaper ad and crammed it into an email. You also only want to send out 2 emails a month, one in the beginning of the month and one in the middle of the month. The only time you can get away sending out more than that is if you're sending out an e-newsletter. If you're going to do this program and follow this process, you're building a relationship, so you do not want to abuse that relationship by sending out too many emails. You need to monitor your spam filters and make sure you're delivering past the spam filters. And most importantly, the emails need to be mobile enabled because unfortunately, most people today are reading their emails on their cell phone. Now, when you're doing this, you want to find an email service provider. You do not want to try and do this through your CRM. CRMs are not designed to do mass email marketing. Matter of fact, some of these CRMs out there will limit you to doing different quantities of emails. I'm not sure what they've changed them all, but I know that they're constantly changing those. They're not designed to do that. And more importantly, they're going to give you back inaccurate reporting. But most importantly, they're not going to be able to set you up so you can actually get past the spam filters. When you're using an email service provider, you are going to pay for it. Now, an example of one is Constant Contact. Everybody's heard of Constant Contact. Constant Contact you can absolutely positively not use for this process. But there's a lot of other ones. You can Google them or you can contact me afterwards. I can tell you a couple of ones that I've used or I'm using right now. But the benefit is you're going to get detailed reporting. They're going to set you up with IP addresses to keep the sending away from your own domain. It's going to give you activity notifications, and they have a team of deliverability experts. And that's something that is probably the most invaluable or the most valuable part of the whole process. They're going to have people that do nothing all day but figure out how to get past the spam filters. And then, of course, they've got marketing automation, all the other bells and whistles. But now, if you're going to follow the process, let's dive into the process a little bit of what I'm recommending for you. First of all, you're going to send out 2 campaigns a month to the entire database. Now, I'm going to digress for a second because there's a lot of people out there that are talking about email targeting and targeting your emails and blah, blah, blah. And that's exactly what it is. There's a bunch of blah, blah, blah. There's no reason to try and take your database and figure out who is the best person to send an email to, because it's a numbers game. Let's just play the numbers for a second. You got 10,000 records that are in your database. So now you go and you run through all this email algorithms and all this stuff like this to find out who's the best people to email to. And all their little formulas come up and you come up with 1,000 people that are the prime people for us to email to this month. So now you send out of your 10,000 records, you send out 1,000 emails. As good as we are at Cactus Guy at delivering emails past spam filters, we're still only getting a 10% open rate. So let's say the vendor that's telling you all of this stuff is as good as we are, and they get a 10% open rate. So now out of your 1,000 people you email to, you got 100 people that open up your message. 100 people that have seen your sales message. That's a joke. Our philosophy is if you got 10,000 records, you send out 10,000 emails because you're going to have that same 10% open rate. And I would rather have 1,000 people reading my emails and potentially coming into my dealership than 100. So if somebody is selling you on that, or if you're doing that currently, stop it, because you're wasting your money and you're not going to be successful. So we do service at the beginning of the month, and we do sales at the middle of the month. So if you have 20,000 records in your database, every month you're sending out 40,000 emails. Your CRM is not capable of sending out 40,000 emails a month. Why do we focus on service? We focus on service because not only is it a huge revenue source for the dealership, but a satisfied service customer will eventually buy a new car. But when you send out a service campaign, you need to keep them clean and simple. You don't need to overwhelm them with a bunch of service offers. 1, maybe 2 service offers, but every email should have 4 key buttons. This one actually has 5. You have service coupons, new vehicles, search pre-owned, trade-in appraisal, this one has InstaQuote. The reason why you have these 4 buttons, or in this case 5 buttons, is every email that goes out, you want to have links back to your website, because even though it may be a service campaign, the person receiving it might be interested in buying a car, so you want them to have easy access to your website. Now this is the other section that is very important, and this is by far one of the most important matter. If you notice on the screen at the bottom, I got a little star down there, and the reason why I do that is just because I want people to realize this is an important part of the presentation. A large percentage of the people we're marketing to are coming out of the CRM. When you buy a lead from a lead provider, they typically provide you with name, phone number, and email address. You have no idea what vehicle they're driving. So if I'm a Toyota dealership, the person that is the lead I bought, they may be driving a Ford. So if I send an email out to them and they click on service coupons and they go to my Ford website or my Toyota website, excuse me, and all I have are Toyota-focused coupons, I've just lost that opportunity. So for you to be successful with this program, you need to build a coupon microsite that has coupons for all makes and models. So if I send an email out to somebody who is not a Toyota owner, I have coupons that are available for any make and model. And you want to make the coupons nice and clean, but make sure they're mobile. And I recommend you put all kinds of free stuff on there because we're trying to bring people back in. So that is one of the key things about service, having a good coupon page. Now what's going to happen is you're going to start driving a lot more traffic to your website. Now in the middle of the month, you're going to send out a sales campaign. And again, the sales campaign does not look like a bad newspaper ad that you try to cram into an email. You want it to be conversational. Remember, we're building relationships, so we don't need overwhelming people. They're either our customers or they're prospects. They know who we are. We don't need to be hammering them with ads. We want to talk to them about why they should come in and buy a car. And the goal of an email is to get them to click through to your website. Every email is focused upon getting them into the store. And the way to do that is keeping your dealership top of mind. So when they are in the market to buy, they are going to be thinking about you. And that's why we want to make sure that it's easy for them to communicate with you, especially by making it mobile friendly. Now this is an example of one of my clients, and it may look like a mobile friendly email, but in all reality it's not. Anytime you have to pinch and zoom, it's not mobile friendly. This is what a mobile friendly email looks like. The other key about a mobile friendly is the buttons are resized, but more importantly, the phone number is click activated, where you can actually click on it and call. So there's several pieces of the puzzle in this program I'm showing you. And if you follow those, you're going to do several things, including increase your service retention. Now, when you're doing this email marketing, it's important that we talk about the 4 buttons that are very important, whether you're building them in your system or you're building them separately. You want to have new vehicles, pre-owned vehicles, value my trade, and service specials. And then you're going to use email retargeting to bring them back to your website. Why this is important is this. We are seeing 30 to 50% open rates on follow-up emails. So if somebody goes to your website and they click on Value My Trade, you want to have a system in place that is going to trigger a series of follow-up emails that talk about why they should trade with you, why they should come in and do business with you. Those emails are giving them information based upon what they're looking for. So those 4 key links we talked about, new vehicles, pre-owned, service, value my trade, and then service, should trigger a series of at least 4, you could go as many as 6 follow-up emails that will go out over a period of 30 days. And those emails have, and this here slide is actually a little bit conservative because I've got some that are over 50% open rates. But email retargeting is the second piece of the puzzle. The nice things about these email systems I'm talking about, these third-party vendors, they give you the ability to put a tracking pixel on the browser. So when somebody goes to your website, then they are now tagged. So every time they go back to your website, you can send them a time-sensitive message. And the key with these time-sensitive messages is you want to make it where it's for a limited amount of time. The reason for that is, you think about it. The process started by you sending an email to them. They opened the email. They were interested enough to click through to your website. They clicked through to your website. It triggered a series of follow-up emails. Those follow-up emails then caused them to go back to your website to gather more information. So you now know that they've read an email, they were interested enough to go to your website, they received a second email, and they've come back to your website a second time. In my mind, and I think you all will agree, that person is interested in doing business with you. So now that we know that they're back on your website for the second time, we want to hit them with another message that is a high-impact message to give them a reason to contact you. The goal here is to get them to contact you, whether they come into the dealership or they call or email you or fill out a data capture form. But that's the purpose of the high-impact messages. Here are some examples of them. For 48 hours, we're giving you the price that we pay. There's one, in market for new vehicle, congratulations, you're now eligible for a 72-hour offer to receive $500 off any new vehicle's listed price. We need your pre-owned trade. Take an extra $500. It could be whatever you want it to be, but you want to have something that is a limited time because we want to cause them to come into the dealership. The key here is you are going to close more sales by using marketing automation, because the end of the day, salespeople are busy, your BDC is busy, and customers are typically falling through the cracks. If you follow this process that I've just laid out for you and set up a system that is going to automatically do the work for you, it's going to be like you're having a whole additional sales staff out there working 24/7, touching base with everybody to make sure that you're not missing any sales. Because at this point, with technology being the way it is, you can't afford to miss any sales. So with that being said, I've actually gone a little bit longer than I normally do, but I'm going to put up my contact information, and I'm going to open up the lines for questions. So if you have any questions, and I've got some questions coming in already, let me go start the questions right now. Just shoot me a question, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Here we go. First question is, can I give a couple names? I don't like giving names of the vendors over the phone during the webinar, because it's just not, I don't want people to feel that I'm endorsing these companies. Shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to send you their information and give you their names. Okay, next question. What is the average closing ratio? Well, the average closing ratio, according to NAD, goes from as low as 4%, and I've seen as high as 9% as far as average. Depends on who you're asking. But most dealerships, you know, if you're doing a true closing ratio, most of them are going to fall under 10%. It's just the way it is across the board. Okay, here's the next question. What is the best CRM out there? That's another one. You're putting me in a difficult position when you're asking these type of questions. There's a lot of great CRM providers out there. They all do a very good job, and I work with all of them, so it's kind of hard for me to say. Again, I'm not here to give endorsements. I'm not trying to sell a product. Okay, next question. Okay, this is a very good question. How many leads per person is the best number for someone in the CRM? I mean, in the DM, what is it? The BDC, I'm sorry. Well, I've seen the average BDC person being able to handle anywhere from 75 to 125 leads at any one time. Oh, here's a very good question. Who would be the person to have as the contact? What I recommend is when you're doing the automated messaging, you want to have the automated messaging coming from somebody in authority at the dealership. It could be the dealer, perhaps, or a general manager. It needs to be somebody who is going to be at the dealership. Because you don't want to have to go back in after you set the system up and go back and replace all of those emails with somebody else. So I've got time for one more question because it's exactly 1:30 and I always want to respect everyone's time. So let me find the last question here. Last question, I've got a couple of them here. Let me scroll through. Here we go. Okay. This one is about blacklisting. Okay. That's a whole nother topic, but the question is, how do you get unblacklisted from doing mass email marketing? That, for my recommendation, unfortunately, is just call me directly and I can give you some advice and give you some ideas on how to do that. That's something that is very difficult to do, and that's why by doing it, by using a third-party provider like we talked about, it really helps you prevent being blacklisted because you're not sending the emails off of your domain. You're doing it off a separate IP address. But as always, I want to thank everybody. It's 1:30. If you have any more questions, feel free to email me or call me. If you'd like a copy of my presentation, feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to give it to you. No strings attached. And as always, if there's ever anything I can do to help you to sell more cars, please don't hesitate to call me. This is the Web Doc signing out.